new streams, and my chat window didn't appear, so I don't have a chat for some reason. I've never had that happen before. So I'm here now, and I'm here to talk about transcendental states and the necessity of them, and also why they don't generally do most people a whole hell of a lot of good, I've noticed, particularly in the arena of plant medicine. It's not that I've lost my faith in plant medicine necessarily, but I have lost my faith in the context that people are using plant medicine or something, because for me, one of the main focus of any occult practice, any spiritual practice, any kind of transcendental meditation, entering into flow state. I mean, why do you enter into flow state if you're a musician? So that you can improvise things that no one has ever heard before that are completely unique to you. And the beautiful thing about that is that it's this sort of filtration of this infinite sort of inert, neutral consciousness through the fingerprint, the soul fingerprint of the individual. So with the whole plant medicine scene, one of the reasons I've kind of disassociated from it completely, even in, how's it going, natural state? When I got here in PSOC, I was really happy that there seemed to be a few people that were really like down to earth and realistic about it and not really infected with the woo, but I got to know them just a tiny little bit and discovered a bunch of narcissism, egomaniac, shallow, fake, plastic, fucking, same old story. I know it's been told. Some like jelly and some like gold. Very few of you will get that reference. But, so I've been thinking a lot about, like, how is it that, these things have let us down? Why is it that so many people take psychedelics and engage in all of these practices, but they don't quite get what they want out of it? And the answer is very, very simple. There's a two-part answer. First, you must answer the question, what is the most common human attribute? Is it fear or is it laziness? And once you have answered that question, the answer is ambos, both. Then you can examine what the antidote to fear and laziness is. How does one develop courage? How does one develop stamina? How does one develop stick-to-itiveness? The most complete set of talents and virtues is totally useless in the absence of willpower and discipline. And this is where almost everyone falls off the fucking bridge, because people want it easy. They want someone to give them a potion from plants from the jungle and wiggle their fingers around and pull a demon out of their forehead, and then they get to go home and be happy and good. And all of their dreams will come true because they have found a psychic who has discovered who their past lives are, and now they're empowered by this illusion that actually isn't empowering because it's totally meaningless. It's not real. The reality is that 90% of the people that have taken so much pride in their spiritual attainment and, imagine themselves to be shaman and whatnot, are more like theosophists. And in the language of Aleister Crowley, a theosophist is like an occultist or a magician, except that they do no work. So they talk all the same shit, but they don't actually do anything. And what really got me thinking about all this was actually Maynard James Keenan from Tool. I listened to that band so much when I was younger that I kind of got sick of them to the point where I just couldn't even hear it anymore. But lately, I don't know what it is, just all of a sudden it was like I was hearing it all anew. I think I watched a video about lateralis or something, and I knew that they built it around the Fibonacci sequence, but I didn't realize that the choruses are 55 seconds long. That the vocals come in at the 2.16 or whatever the golden mean is, exactly on that second marker, and then when the time signatures divide in the chorus, the ratio between the numbers is the golden mean, it's just absolute lunacy. And then to imagine that, okay, you do all this, you hang all this stuff on these mathematics, and then you still have a listenable song, and how do you nail the tempo? You know what I mean? So the point about that is the discipline and willpower that it took to construct that came from training at West Point. So Maynard does all the things that all of the theosophists do. He takes psychedelics. He's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. He mastered winemaking. He studied all the mystical traditions. He studied Aleister Crowley. He did all of these things. But he also had military training in willpower, discipline, concision, planning, And so that is my revelation for everyone, that as long as you neglect the capacity to be extremely disciplined and to engineer yourself in a way that allows you to master your environment rather than being mastered by it, you will be able to talk a lot of, gobbledygook, but that's all it is. Anybody can read stuff and regurgitate it. Putting this stuff into action and making manifestations of it is the real test of mastery. Your success is your proof, so shut your mouth, Plus, this stuff can be extremely damaging if it's not contextualized correctly. Why don't I have a chat? Where's my fucking chat? Here, let me see if refreshing will give it back. I hate that. I think I might have a virus, honestly. When I set up the stream, it just made like 200 of them on its own. It's still doing it. Yep, it's still doing it. Oh my God. It's just my whole computer screen. I just tried to refresh, and instead my whole entire computer screen is filling up with new windows. Wow, that's really crazy. Oh, there's my chat back. Okay, so basically, like in my world right now, what I'm trying to do after a series of disasters, both personal and professional, and all sorts of revelations, right? This alchemical process, it's a rough thing to have to accept that you must have the negative energy in the first place to transmute into the positive. If you're lacking in one type of energy, then you're probably going to find yourself accumulating the type of energy that you do not like, but you have to see that in that crisis lies an opportunity. And then you have to transmute that into a higher purpose and greater concision and confidence and courage and determination. In my opinion, it's like if those of us out here that are of the right mindset and of the right disposition do not very rapidly put ourselves in positions of influence to some extent, the world is going to continue to tank. It probably will anyways, but I don't know about you, I got nothing better to do. So we may as well enter flow state as often as possible, acquire the ability to play an instrument if you don't have that already. Entering into flow state is really just another way for saying transcendental mind, A great question to ask yourself, and this is something that a lot of people deny because they say, well, you're just high. The idea that psychedelics actually confer, they don't really confer, but they give you access to, like a key, to capacities of consciousness that are not normally in effect, and that our modern science still kind of denies the existence of, like precognition and telepathy and all of these other sort of mechanisms. Man, this is so weird with all my windows. Sorry, it's really distracting you guys. Also, my family is landing here. I haven't seen my son in about 2 months since my partner and I split up. So I just decided to pop on to give myself something to do for the next 45 minutes while I wait for them to show up. So also feel free to, pop questions into the computer that I hope doesn't have a virus, or maybe my YouTube account has been hacked or something. Where was I at with this, though? Yeah, so I went through all these personal and professional tragedies, and so, at one point, it was so heavy, a spoonful weighs a ton. It's like a spoonful of the sun in my pockets, my heart pockets. And, it got me for about a week, I guess. I was on a downward spiral that could have ended in disaster, and then as soon as I picked myself up, there was disaster anyways, so that can happen. Watch out for that. But the point is that overall, I have used this experience to melt the icy walls around my heart and to transmute my sort of neutral, flat emotional state into something much more dynamic. And I have used the fact that, there were certain inadequacies in my pentagram that needed to be balanced again. And that had something to do with the relationship falling apart. And so I drew my attention to those things and used the motivation to balance the pentagram much more rapidly than I ever would have imagined possible. So, this is the task that we have at our feet right now. I pay attention to this community. I see the kind of comments people make. I kind of know the mind state of a lot of you out there. And, all of us have this kind of self-defeating programming to some extent. But, the time for complete and total self-awareness, the time to individuate in totality, the time to deprogram all of our political, indoctrination, it is necessary to free ourselves from all sorts of untruths before we can step into the light and reflect it effectively, which is our optimum state and our primary mission and primary goal. Also, a primary goal and mission for me right now is to compensate for the fact that the United States government and the Peruvian government just completely wiped me out as my family is arriving here. So I'm offering all sorts of discounts on year-long, all of my different programs, guitar lessons, flow state lifestyle, occult and ritual magic training. I am an unlicensed therapist, but you can find reviews of my program on my channel, and they are very good. It's something that I do very well intuitively. So really hoping to get a couple of people to jump on board for the year-long thing. You get about a 20% discount as opposed to paying monthly on the Patreon, and it can be for anything. You can do it for the secret streams, which I've changed to Forbidden Knowledge, because I stole the name Secret Stream from Morg and the idea when I started this channel, and now I don't like him anymore. And I just don't like the association of even having that same title for my stuff. So now it's the Forbidden Knowledge streams. And so anyways, year-long packages of any of this stuff is all 20% off. Today and tomorrow only, and then we are moving forward with the event in Pisac. I have found a location, and it is a very nice place called the Blue Lotus. And so we are looking at having the Ashaninka Shamana come down. We have plenty of people here, but I need somebody repping the jungle. Gotta have that style. Although I thought it would be good to really actually focus on what is here in the Andes. We did 3 rounds of jungle gnosis in the jungle, and so now we're in the mountains, and I feel like it's appropriate to focus on the plants that are here. The reality is, though, that ayahuasca has penetrated and permeated all of the areas everywhere now. So it's like, which I'm actually going to talk a little bit about that, about how the sort of dogmatic adherence to ritual and protocol and tradition, is actually kind of dumb. It doesn't serve any real purposes unless you're part of that tradition. I am all about the synergizing of different systems. And when I started talking about Maynard James Keenan earlier and just sort of drifted off into a completely different subject, what I was actually saying, did I finish that? I don't think I mentioned that he used psychedelics, yoga. Yeah, I did. Okay, I did finish that thought. Sorry, guys, I've been traveling, so I'm not, my brain is not as concise as it could be. But yeah, so we're looking for a few things. I'm looking for funding, because I have to rent the property, I have to fly all the shamans here, I have to pay them in advance and all this stuff. And then I have to book the place, you know what I mean? I have to get some security deposits or it's not gonna happen. So if you're interested in that, contact me, set up a Zoom call. And also, if there is someone who wants to provide seed money to the tune of like $5K or something, what I did last time when the person did that is they came for 6 weeks by themselves, and I spent every day with them, all day into the night. So that is also on the table as sort of like a 6-week apprenticeship where you can learn everything that I know, everything that you're interested in, and you get a significant discount on the time that you were here, or you could be a partner and actually get money back or whatever. But it's going to be difficult for me to move forward after the shit that has gone down in the last couple of months unless I find some seed money or something. But it's going to be worth it, man. The ruins around here are remarkable, and we're going to incorporate that into it. So there'll be medicine at the ruins. We will eat San Pedro chocolates and go out into the Incan ruins. The Temple of the Sun, probably we'll go to there, and a bunch of the free ones around here. You can just go and do whatever you want, which is kind of nice. There's no guards, no security, nothing. You're just there by yourself. I have one in my backyard. You can go inside, whatever, and none of them are vandalized. It's really wild. It's really crazy. This process that I am describing here kind of jaggedly and without much focus tonight is really about peeling off the layers of fucking lies. It's about becoming who you truly are. Yeah, that's how they do it here, man. Like when people go on hikes and stuff, you know, you see advertisements on in PSOC all the time. They're going to the ruins. We have these like, you know, chocolate dipped pretzel shaped San Pedro cactus thingies we're gonna eat. So yeah, and that's just for a casual hike. That's not like, you know, you're not going to take, it's not going to be a strong, overwhelming dose. It's just going to be like a really connected to the, you know, clouds moving around a little bit and some colors in the air, but able to hike and not vomit and stuff, you know. So it's for a mild experience while hiking. We'll do that sometimes, but then also sit still and take higher doses. Yeah, so before I got distracted by the chat, what I was saying is it's about melting the fucking lies, you know? It's about dissolving the mind-forged manacles of the propaganda machine and liberating yourself from limiting beliefs, you know? I actually took my stream down from yesterday where I was talking about how poverty trauma had fucked me up because I was so tired that I didn't finish a lot of my thoughts and I just didn't like how it came off. But, you know, that's a good example of how you need to approach developing another level of freedom. You know, I got it all in the wrong order. The psychotherapy came after the Enlightenment, basically, you know, and the realization that consciousness plays some kind of functional role in our experience beyond what we would normally anticipate and what we have been taught is correct. And that's a bad thing. It's a very bad thing. It made a big mess. It's just like Mickey Mouse in The Sorcerer's Apprentice. I figured out how to make the brooms move by themselves, and they almost killed me. Not literally, but definitely, you know, you guys know what I mean. It's, you got to get things done in the right order. And so the psychotherapy, you know, is the first thing, and the dissolution of limiting beliefs. You know, you have to be willing to stare directly into the shadow and comb through it with a fine-tooth comb, and you have to be objective, and you have to have the greatest ability, the best ability to look into your shadow, grab it by the nuts, rip them off, and beat it in the face with them. I mean, which isn't really true. You actually want to kind of integrate it and make friends with it. Oh man, where's my focus again tonight? I guess, you know, it makes sense. I'm a little bit scattered because I haven't seen these people that are coming, my son and my ex-partner, for a couple of months. And I don't even know how I feel about seeing one of them. And my partner's always weird when your ex is coming to live with you. Months. And I don't even know how I feel about seeing one of them. And my partner's always partner, your ex is coming to live with you. Months. And I don't even know how I feel about seeing one of them. And my partner's always partner, your ex is coming to live with you. Months. And I don't even know how I feel about seeing one of them. And my partner's always partner, your ex is coming to live with you. Months. And I don't even know how I feel about seeing one of them. And my partner's always partner, your ex is coming to live with you. Months. And I don't even know how I feel about seeing one of them. And my partner's always partner, your ex is coming to live with you. Months. And I don't even know how I feel about seeing one of them. And my partner's always partner, your ex is coming to live with you. Months. And I don't even know how I feel about seeing one of them. And my partner's always partner, your ex is coming to live with you. Months. And I don't even know how I feel about seeing one of them. And my partner's always partner, your ex is coming to live with you. Months. And I don't even know how I feel about seeing one of them. And my partner's always partner, your ex is coming to live with you. Months. And I don't even know how I feel about seeing one of them. And my partner's always partner, your ex is coming to live with you. Months. And I don't even know how I feel about seeing one of them. And my partner's always partner, your ex is coming to live with you. Months. And I don't even know how I feel about seeing one of them. And my partner's always partner, your ex is coming to live with you. Months. And I don't even know how I feel about seeing one of them. And my partner's always partner, your ex is coming to live with you. Months. And I don't even know how I feel about seeing one of them. And my partner's always partner, your ex is coming to live with you. Months. And I don't even know how I feel about seeing one of them. And my partner's always partner, your ex is. That's what happened. Get out of here. All right, it's better now. Sorry about that, guys. It's not bad now, right? Answer me, maggot. So yeah, man. Discipline and willpower, critical thinking, objectivity, you know. One of the things that actually inspired me to talk about all this today was the stupid fucking things people have been saying in my comments and chats, you know. I was going to ask you guys what you would do in this one case. I have this person who is like one of the dumbest trolls in the history of the internet, and he I guess comments on my almost everything I post for years, and it's always some stupid ass, completely unfounded bullshit that is just like fucking retarded trolling. Should I just block him from the channel, or should I continue to humor this guy? Because in a way, he's been a supporter for, it's like he just follows me so he can troll me, In a way, I just feel like, man, when you're fucking that much of an idiot, like, why should anyone tolerate you? You know what I mean? Like, that's all you're about. You're gonna follow someone for years just to troll them. Anyways, so where are we at with this whole story? I'm basically trying to lay out the foundations of, a realistic program for self-engineering, and my brain is just all over the place because of a lot of stuff. So you can take a lot of it off my mind by becoming a patron or sending support to one of the options in the chat. But yeah, it's really a simple thing, It's really a simple thing. I guess what I was trying to say about Maynard James Keenan and Tool earlier is that I was just thinking about how, that one fundamental little difference of, engaging in all of these transcendental type of activities, but then also having the discipline and willpower to make structures out of them and to study mathematics and to do the tedious stuff. I think I remember what it was, actually. He was talking about touring, and he's like, yeah, you're in a bus and you're driving around, like sometimes it's like you're in a cornfield, sometimes you get no sleep, and then he's like, and then I wake up, roll out of bed, and like, if you ever watched a video with him, an interview, his eyes are like dead ahead, no change in expression, almost never, like shoulders straight, like, I mean, the dude is like focused like that on the breath all the fucking time. They say Bob Dylan was like that as well, that he was always focused on his breath, and that's how he maintained this level of creativity throughout his, well, not throughout his career, but in the first half anyways. And so the point is, what you're going to start to see on this channel, I think, is a lot of my efforts to increase my capacity to channel my energy into a more focused and more potent format. And I'm inviting everyone to come with me because it's awesome to transcend your limitations, The stream that I did yesterday, I was basically talking about how all this stuff from my past as a child, all the violence that clung to me, the beliefs that you acquire when you grow up in poverty and all of this sort of thing. And what I've discovered is that in a lot of cases, it can be an extremely simple thing or a repetition of a couple of extremely a lot of cases, it can be simple things that allows you to dissolve these perceptions of your limitations and transcend them. And so, you know what I'm going to say? If you follow me at all, you know what I'm going to say. What is the first thing that you have to do? Does the sound still fucked up bad? I'm looking at the other chat. If you don't mind, because I'm feeling sus with Morg too. Oh, yeah. Let me explain Morg. Good idea. Man, I was just about to say, if you're not doing the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram every morning, you are fucking up. There's no better way to create your reality consistently with your inner being than the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram. It's the most brilliantly designed ritual. Even if you don't believe in magic, there's no way you're not going to benefit from it. Down to the number of the fourfold breaths for stability, creating the stability of the base for your universe, and then the way you build all the rest of it after that. Tremendously powerful, brilliant. If you're not doing that, you're fucking up. But yeah, let's talk about Morg, because this was a good lesson for me. Part of all this is that when you start messing around with your consciousness and your experience changes, people oftentimes go off the rails on the woo-choo train, right? And it's very easy once you develop or experience a few undeniable precognitions that you start to think that you can just precognize everything. And if you manifest a couple of things that are eerily, as if you actually manifested them, then you're going to start thinking you can just always do it and get whatever you want, even if it's not possible. And then you're going to get yourself into trouble, So one of the things that kind of like helped to chop away at what little woo was left in my world, when I first discovered Morg, I realized he had the same birthday as me, but he's 10 years younger to the day, right? So we're both born on May 16th. And he was talking all the same shit that I do. Almost everything that I think he would say. And it got to the point where a few minutes after I would publish a title for a stream, I would get a notification that he was also talking about the same subject that night. I will answer that question too momentarily, but then I found out about the Pythagorean Illuminati and those who we call the authors. The authors are a collective. We don't know how many of them there are. Nobody does. Mike Hockney is not a real person. He is a collection of people. And they came up with this idea called ontological mathematics. Now, at this point, I'm not a huge fan of Hockney and the Pythagorean Illuminati either, because one of the things that they do is take old Illuminist ideas and then rebrand them. So the law of necessity that has been a fundamental bit of wisdom in the Western occult and mystery tradition for aeons, they just rebranded it the principle of sufficient reason. And then they will predicate things to their followers like, if A, then B, then C, so, and then they'll go on in this rant. The problem is if you look at that, oh my gosh, what are they called? I can't remember the name of these. The constituent parts of the equation, A plus B does not equal C. So they start on a false pretext that their users accept, even though it's complete lunatic logic that their followers accept, and then they build all these ideas based on absolute nothingness. And a lot of ma authority, where like, this must be so because I have said it makes sense. And then, their average followers will not nearly as intelligent as they are, so they don't notice all this stuff. But so Morg ripped off the ontological mathematics and all of these other ideas from the Pythagorean Illuminati. And when I found that out, not trying to boast or whatever, but I figured this shit all out myself. You know what I mean? I did take initiation in a couple of fraternities, but I brought everything with me that I learned there. You know what I mean? It wasn't really about that. So at first I thought he was like me and that he had figured all this stuff out, and that makes him a legitimate teacher. And then I discovered that he had just plagiarized these other people and ripped them off. And also he is a pedophile and a narcissist and a psychopath. And when people piss him off, his parents are sheriffs in the San Bernardino, I think it is, sheriff's department, and he'll have his enemies swatted. That's what happens if you fuck with Morg. Like if he steals your material, and then you get mad at him and say something on the internet, or he touches your kid or something, he'll just have your house swatted. He's a piece of shit and he's a liar. He's a fraud. He's a complete fucking fraud. And yes, it does get under my skin that people that are sort of like the fucking fake version of myself are that successful. It sucks. It really does. I know for certain he's actually even stolen material from me, which is pretty remarkable. I was totally incredulous that was actually what happened. I thought it must be a coincidence until all this stuff came out, and then I realized this dude is a walking sack of shit. So, how do you expand your mind, he said. I'm going to assume he means how do you expand your mind. There's a lot to that. There's a lot. And one of the primary things that we are missing in our society, make sure I have time here, I don't want to leave them like stuck outside. They don't know where they're going. They only left 24 minutes ago, so I have time. So, okay, in the older traditions, it doesn't matter which one you're talking about. Druids, the Eleusinian mysteries, the shamanic traditions in South America, the Masonic tradition, there is a hierarchy. And it's not, under ideal circumstances, it's not a hierarchy in the sense that someone's like in charge of you and they're your boss and they control you and that kind of shit like in the US military. But it is necessary that there is wisdom to mediate enthusiasm. So when the neophyte comes in, the neophyte is egoic he is delusional, he is indoctrinated, he has all sorts of things that are going to cause him problems once his powers are expanded, if they are not put in their proper places and reorganized. And so it's a difficult thing for people, I think, out there in the world that don't have that fraternity, that don't have that system of hierarchy. There's no one to tell them whether or not they are a shaman. You know, there's no one to tell them whether or not they have become enlightened or illuminated. And, you know, I shouldn't even phrase it that way, because in, for example, the Western mystery tradition, it's not that someone tells you that you're enlightened or illuminated or that you're ready for the next degree. Your success is your proof. So you are given the opportunity to demonstrate certain things that establish that you are in this place. And so what that protects you against is the tendency for people to become delusional during this process. Ego inflation is very common during this process. Going off the rails on the woo-choo train is one of the biggest problems and one of the most common things out there. You know, so what I'm getting at here is that expanding your mind is only part of this process. You know, the other aspects of it involve education, study, training, developing the skeptical mind, developing critical thinking, if I didn't say that already. Sorry, I'm trying to monitor 2 chats here. You know, so for me, it's about keeping abreast of the sciences all the time. Like everything, technology, genetics, you know, physics, everything that I can have time to trace, psychology, whatever, you know, and observation of the natural world, of systems and cycles. And fundamentally, you will notice that there are certain fundamental laws of creation that are manifest in any system you can observe. And so training the mind to lock onto those and to extract metaphors from them is kind of the you know, it's the shaman's approach, it is the Taoist approach, and it's even the Masonic approach, except to the extent that in a lot of cases, the Taoist is just observing and learning. The Mason is using, the magician is using. So, you know, it's not just about taking plant medicine, and that is why I think so much of the plant medicine community is completely off the rails on the woo-choo train. There's so much homogenization. They're all trying to look and talk and dress exactly like each other. Ego inflation is rampant. You know, it's so bad I don't want anything to do with them. For the most part, you know, it's not my scene at all. And the reason is that it does not have that multifaceted support. You know, people do not want to read. They don't want to study. They don't want to learn higher mathematics. They don't want to study philosophy. They don't want to study the sciences. They just want to drink ayahuasca and sit there and pretend like they're, you know, after a certain point, it's not doing anything other than like, it's like watching television or something, you know, unless you continue to feed your mind, feed your soul, to expand the parameters of your experience. You know, and then your journey with plant medicine will continue to be rich and unfold all sorts of different dimensions and offer insights and shine the light where you have refused to look and all this stuff. But, you know, the bullet point of this presentation basically is that the ineffectuality of a lot of this stuff is really due to human laziness. You know, I constantly meet people that I know that I can help, but when I start like trying to show them the sort of technical stuff that they, you know, the work that they have to tediously do, then they're not interested, you know, and they remain stagnating. Those that actually are willing to apply themselves with greater depth find themselves liberated and their lives becoming more fulfilling and their freedom more available. And yeah, the bonobos, that is actually a good subject. I mean, it is, that's a huge part of it too. You know, when you go out into nature, it's remaining completely fascinated with the mysteries all around you is one of the most powerful types of magic that there is, that absorption and the ubiquitousness of the mystery and its ability to surprise and delight and to confound after decades and decades and decades of observation. You know, This is the antidote to suicide. This is the antidote to homicide. This is the antidote to rape. And speaking of antidotes, I mean, you guys know that the fundamental thing is to figure out your true will and to constrain every breath, every deed, every thought to that fundamental purpose. And you will be miserable until you do that, you know? And misery is relative, right? So until you find out what it's like to be fully realized and fully self-satisfied, you might not even know you're miserable. You know, I didn't. Yeah. So you guys have a few minutes to throw questions in the chat if you would like. And please consider supporting my ass. I am trying to get a bunch of stuff done for this channel, and it all costs money. So I need funding if I'm going to continue to explore ruins and document ancient knowledge. And also, again, I want to plug the retreat here at Blue Lotus that I am trying to arrange at the moment, and what we need is deposits from people that are serious about coming. We were going to do it on my birthday, but some things went down, obviously, and now we are looking at July, or potentially even June, but it just depends on, that's another thing. If you're the first person to make a deposit, you can decide when the retreat happens. So that's also cool. I am near Pisac, Jen. In the Andes. There are ruins. I can go outside right now and look behind my house, and there are 4 ruins going up the side of the hill. It takes about 10 minutes to walk up there. And then on the other side of the valley, about a 30-minute walk, there is a bunch of these giant, I don't know, I guess they were grain storage or something, but they're like 40 feet tall. And have you go back in time by meditating? No, but I went back to the beginning of time by smoking too much DMT one time. Big, huge hits, way too many of them, didn't know what I was doing, very young, and blew my soul out of my mouth, and it went tumbling across the street. And then when it landed on the other side, I sat up and I was underwater, and a trilobite swam by my face, and I was like, that's not right. So I started walking along the ocean floor, and there was critters and monsters and all the sort of things that were there back when trilobites were abundant. You know, I think I even snacked on one. It swam too close to my face, and I just grabbed it and bit it. And who knows what I was? I guess, you know, I didn't really have a mirror down there. And so I walked and walked and walked for about 60 million years. And then I came up out of the water, and there was sand, and there was things coming with me, and they had flipper floppers, and they became feet. And then we walked and walked and walked and walked and walked, and there was dinosaurs after a while. And the sun went up, and the sun went down, the sun went up, sun went down, every day, every minute, every second, for millions and millions and millions of years. Finally, there were mammals. And then the people came, and then things started to speed up. And so I walked past my body, which I guess represented the present moment, and I walked past it a little bit into the future, and I looked around, and buildings were on fire, and it was chaos, and there was a voice over a megaphone saying, "You are now under martial law. All constitutional rights have been revoked. You are now under martial law. All constitutional rights have been revoked." And I was like, fuck. So I ran and jumped. Is the answer to that? By the way, you guys, I think we are kind of like the first, I am Lenape Nation of Turtle Island. Well, thank you, Jen Paladu. Hi, Jen. Yeah, sure. When's your streaming times? I don't know, man. It's going to be pretty chaotic because my family, we configure both primary and backup streams correctly. The comparison of the streams failed. What the fuck, man? I'm getting all these weird messages from YouTube. I don't know. It's going to be a little bit chaotic. Because my family just got here, and I had to rent my basement room, but the dueño, the owner of the house, isn't in town, so he has to stay in my extra room for the first few nights, which is connected to my office. So it's going to be difficult when I don't know, he's just going to have to get out of the way, I guess, and just let me stream from his room until he moves downstairs on Monday. So anyways, I don't know, over the weekend it's going to be a little bit chaotic. Even my little connection circle has turned blue instead of green. Yeah, I've been on the Big Bang trip before too. That was wild. I don't know if this other stream is still working. Let me restart it. So what were we talking about? Somebody asked me a question and I was about to answer it. I don't get it. What did I see here that I was about to... Oh, programming, right? Is that what it is? I was going to answer the programming question. Provisional programming is what Terence McKenna called it, and it just has to do with like your parents were right wing, so you're right wing. If you're Christian, then your parents are Christian and you're Christian. The newspaper blares all kinds of shit at you. Aleister Crowley in 1857 or some shit went to the United States. I mean, no, he was dead by then. No, 1947 he was dead. So yeah, somewhere around there, 1890 maybe. 1914, no, it was after the war. So after World War I or during World War I, somewhere right around there. And he said that, these people are afraid to drink a cup of coffee or smoke a cigarette or a little bit of cocaine, and yet they have advertisements for pharmaceutical drugs blaring at them from every radio and every billboard, So that kind of stuff is your programming. It's just wild to me that it was already like that in the United States in 1914, But back to the teachings and the programming. I mean, this should be more about not what the problem is, but the solutions, And there's two levels of this. There's the personal microcosmic programming, which is like your parents' abuse and like your successes and failures and all of the influences that have come to bear upon you, that have, particularly those that have caused you to have limiting perceptions that aren't real, And usually, conversely, people that do that will also have beliefs that they can do things that they just never actually get around to doing. So, using those kind of dichotomies to sort of like antinomies balancing, on awareness of both sides of that coin on an individual level, and then on a macrocosmic level, it's the political, religious, socioeconomic, and all of those sorts of things that give us our programming. And so the necessity in order to create the life that we want to live and the world at large too is affected by all of this micro stuff. The first step is to strip away all of those layers of programming and indoctrination. It's really difficult for people, man. It's really difficult. I have people in this community that have been trying to like fight their right-wing fundamentalist like Nazi programming for years and years and years. And I watch the struggle happen in them where they'll have both things in their head, like this cognitive dissonance where they're like, I know this is fucked up, but I'm in Wyoming where there's all, my whole family was, but then also I took psychedelics and they, you know what I mean? Like, and that's a really extreme example, but this kind of work is so difficult because the mechanisms of cognitive bias and selective perception and heuristic bias in particular is a really easy one to understand why this happens, right? Your biases are rooted into your survival instinct. So when someone challenges cognitive dissonance in your mind, even if they're right, you're not like, oh, wow, thanks for helping me figure that out. You're like, fuck you, get out of my life, click, cancel, because it triggers a fight or flight. And the reason is, just to use the example of heuristic bias. Heuristic bias is where when you do something, you expect it to be the same every time after, right? So this is how we can ride a bicycle down the street. Because we know we're not going to get hit by a car because it's never happened again. But that's not true. It's not true. It's not safe to get in your car and drive to work. It's not. It's not 100% safe to drink ayahuasca, even if the medicine is 100% legit. Every now and then, something just happens, It's not actually safe to take a shower. It's not safe to wash your fucking dishes. My mom got hit by lightning almost washing the dishes. She just happened to have her hand out, and a little ball of lightning somehow came through the window. It was like a piece of it or something, and it like hit the sink. And nothing happened because her hands weren't in the water. So if the thunder don't get you, the lightning will, the thing you least expect. But the point of this is that even though you're constantly in danger of death, every moment, everywhere you go, everything you do, sex will kill you, you know what I mean? Like but you have this heuristic bias that tells you that you've done this before, so it's going to be fine. And so that's why these biases get so deeply rooted. And so the political biases and stuff, when you challenge them, when you show people like, look, this whole like conservative thing taken too far, like people consolidating the wealth amongst like, a fraction of a percent, and it's like almost all of it. And, you're defending their right to exploit and enslave and yoke you. And they're like, fuck you, communist. You know what I mean? It's because they have this cognitive dissonance that is rooted into their instinct, their survival instinct. So that's how propaganda is so effective. Once you have these opposing ideas, and that's why they do it like that. It's so important to plant both opposing ideas in people's minds, because you can almost never get them out of it once you have successfully rooted these things. How did I find out about Morg? There are entire YouTube channels of ex-cult members that have exposed Morg for what he really is. And a lot of them have proof of the things that they say. So let me see here. Got to keep an eye on the... Subscribe. Consider joining my Patreon, where you have access to my elucidation for your edification and amusement of about 4 years of going through this gigantic, formerly secret Masonic tome here that I found through a dream. And they have been absolutely amazing. If you want to sample, there's a public one on the channel where basically what I do is I'll read, until I have something to add, and then we'll open it up and expand on things. And it's taken years to get through only 3 degrees because we go into so much detail. So we do that every week. And then now we're also starting Discord chats for the $10 and up tier. You also don't get access to, you get access to occasional premieres and patron-only content at the $5 tier, and then every once in a while I will make a ancient or a forbidden knowledge stream accessible to the entire community, even if you're not on the proper tier. And so at the $10 tier and up, we're doing these Discord chats where it's going to be like a powwow in the Discord. Rather than just me talking at people, we're going to actually form a circle and try to get things done. Why do I like Albert Pike so much? Did you hear any of the shit that I read the other day? It's not about liking him so much. It's just, he is one of the most brilliant expositors, I guess, I don't know the word, of the secret doctrine and the real purpose and function of the mysteries in the world. Morals and Dogma is each degree of Freemasonry explained in some depth, and up until the 33rd degree, when it is blank, because you don't talk about that. You don't write it down. If you write it down, then like what happened with this book is, Masons died and their widows didn't know that they weren't supposed to give the books to used bookstores, and so they ended up in the hands of the public. But it really gives you a clear understanding of what's actually happening in the world, why it's happening, and what we need to do about it. I read this in the last stream, but since you asked, here's a great example. Force, unregulated or ill-regulated, is wasted in the void like gunpowder burned in the open air, and steam unconfined by science. But striking in the dark, its blows meeting only the air, they recoil and bruise itself. It is destruction and ruin. It is the volcano, the earthquake, the cyclone, not growth and progress. It is Polyphemus, blinded, striking at random, and falling headlong among the sharp rocks by the impetus of his blows. The blind force of the people is a force that must be economized and managed, as the blind force of steam, lifting the ponderous iron arms and turning the large wheels, is made to bore and rifle the cannon and to weave the most delicate lace. It must be regulated by intellect. Intellect is to the people and the people's force what the slender needle of the compass is to the ship. Its soul, always counseling the huge mass of wood and iron and always pointing to the north. To attack the citadels built up on all sides against the human race by superstitions, religion, despotism, prejudice, and force, or prejudices, the force must have a brain. Then its deeds of daring produce permanent results, and there is real progress. Then there are sublime conquests. Thought is a force, and philosophy should be an energy, finding its aim and its effects in the amelioration of mankind. The two great motors driving this are truth and love. When all of these forces are combined and guided by the intellect and regulated by the rule of right and justice and of combined and systematic movement and effort, the great revolution prepared for by the ages will begin to march, and humanity will finally understand that the power of the deity himself is in equilibrium with his wisdom. Hence, the only resorts are harmony. And that sort of thing. I mean, what do you mean, why do I like that so much? What are you talking about? Why you ask that? You need to get back to 2018. If you figure that out, you let me know. You let me know. I'll be there with you, bud. For real. Are you serious? The audio went bad again? Jesus, dude. That's too bad. I finally got on a roll, and now the audio's dildoing. Let's see. No, I problemas. No, liar. Actually, yeah. Will you let me know? Is he for real, or she, or whoever that is? But by the way, Jen, you asked about my streaming times. Just click the bell notifications. He's still saying the audio is clipping. Is the audio clipping? There's no audio clipping. It can't be. I fixed it. Didn't I? All right. So, anyways, sorry about the very fragmented and. Yeah, cellular regeneration is not a joke, and that's one of the problems in the world. That's one of the reasons they're going to kill 2/3 of the population. Death is about to be eradicated from the face of the earth, but only if you're rich. It's true. Michael Levin is figuring out how to grow limbs back, regenerate cells. Some researchers figured out how to reverse the aging process in eye cells, which means they can do it in any cell, more or less. They're on their way to that. Michio Kaku, whatever, was talking about this the other day. He started crying, that physicist, because he knows what's going to have to happen. There's no way that you can sustain this population if you have a bunch of eternal people, and people are all they act like, oh, they're so evil because they're the human immune system, you dumbass. You know what I mean? It seems evil, but I'm sure all of the unnecessary tumors in the body think that white blood cells are fucking evil too, And I'm not saying I support it. I'm just saying that I can see the inevitability of the processes that are playing out. What are you going to do? What else are you going to do? AI taking, every goddamn job, including doctors. Within, you know what I mean? It's not like lawyers and doctors are safe from this. No one is. Almost no one. Can you imagine politicians justifying their existence with a 3,000 IQ AI that's totally objective, that could figure out the best form of government and economy? You know what I mean? Nobody is safe from this. So if you factor that in with the fact that we have the technology to stop aging and possibly to reverse it, a couple years out at the most, what the fuck are you going to do? What are you going to do with these 9 billion people that just keep breeding and there's nothing for them to even do besides waste resources? You really got to think about the big picture here and remember that there's not a grain of sand out of place in the universe. The law of necessity governs everything, and there is no way around it. Ain't no way around it. So it's like, from their point of view, game over for everyone, or just the religious extremists, the people that are too stupid to figure out they should eat organic and stay out of certain population zones. And you know what I mean? They're giving you all the hints, signs, symbols, and clues. The writing's on the wall, but the rest is up to you. You know what I mean? That's what's going on, guys. Sorry to have to be the bearer of good news, but it's not just pure evil. It's just, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? You got to trim the fat. So where are they trimming it? Ask yourself this. If there's a certain thing that causes heart attacks and all this stuff, like the conspiracy theorists are saying, it's obviously medical misinformation, like this bullshit about how people die suddenly and whatnot. Isn't it weird that it's only the mainstream muggles that they're trying to get rid of with that then? because it certainly isn't the people on the edges and fringe that are avoiding that medication. So if I'm wrong about what they're actually up to, explain that shit to me. And then ask yourself, if you haven't thought of that, how in the fuck you missed it, you know? Time to start doing some LBRPs in the morning and whatnot. Because it's wild. It's wild. They're not killing the enlightened. They're not going after the illuminated. They're not going after the super intelligent. They're not going after the artists and the creative ones. They're getting rid of all the fat. From a purely objective point of view, you know. Try to imagine that you're the immune system of humanity, you know. Go fix the Middle East. Go fix it. Go ahead, I'll wait. Go, just make them stop. Make them stop fighting. Ask them nicely. You know, after the Palestinian kids have been cleaning up, you know, because they have to bury the entire skeleton of their relatives. These kids have spent their entire youth picking the thousands of pieces of skull out of their front yard and putting it in coffee cans to go and give their parents, like, until they think they have every last piece. Spend your childhood doing that and then go forgive Israel. You know what I mean? And vice versa. So my point is that if you're going after population reduction, probably going to just incite places like that to hurry it up and get it done. You know? And then you look at where Bill Gates has focused his population control efforts, McDonald's food. You know, you see a whole lot of enlightened and illuminated, you know, fringe people eating at McDonald's. No, sure don't. It's funny though. Then why did they tell us that Bill Gates has an exclusive contract to grow GMO vegetables for McDonald's if they're trying to get rid of all the illuminated spiritual people? It's funny. It's almost like they're not. It's almost like they're trying to get rid of the McDonald's eaters. I didn't make the rules, man. I'm just observing, you know. And if you know the rules to the game, play. That's your only choice, you know. You're not going to fight the machine. You're not going to take it down. You're not going to roll it over and neuter it, you know. Boof and eighths of streams to keep the boofies will survive. Have I tried boofing? I don't think I have. Terrence kind of was the man. He lied about his time wave novelty mathematics, and he knew he was lying. He faked them, which is super uncool. But he was also kind of the man. You know, he said a lot of cool things, but he was kind to me personally when I was 17 years old, and I talked about this in the stream. I took it down because I feel like it really misrepresented what I was really trying to communicate with. Although the last 10 minutes were like one of my best moments in my life, probably, because I just suddenly became so clear and concise and really managed to communicate. So I think I'm going to download it, edit it out, all the lunacy, and then just keep that part, and I'll repost it. But since you probably weren't there last night, I didn't know what email was in 1997, and my friend, I wanted to go see Terrence talk. It was actually a retreat, I think, at Palenque. He said, why don't you email him? And I didn't know what email was. So he's like, what? You never used the internet before? I was like, no, I've heard of it, but... So he took me into the great room, and he found Terrence McKenna's email, and I emailed him saying, you know, I'd really wish I could come and talk to you about all this stuff, but I'm just 17 and I don't have any money really. And he said, if you can make it here, you can come for free, but you just have to get here. And I didn't do it because I had a bunch of programming that told me I couldn't do things back then. I don't know anything about, how come I haven't heard of your tribe? Is that like your name, like the tribal name for them? Because, you know, like the Navajo don't call themselves Navajo. They're Dene, you know, means the people. So, yeah, I've lived on several reservations myself, even though I'm only a quarter Native American. I know natives hate to hear that, especially from a blonde-haired, blue-eyed white guy. But I only met my grandfather one time, and I didn't know he was my grandfather. My mom lied to me about who my parents were, my dad at least. So I went to her new boyfriend's house after she split up with the fake dad, And it was weird how everyone was taking such an interest in me and bought me all these Christmas presents, like my aunts and uncles that I'd never met. And I was like, man, this is a really friendly family of my mom's boyfriend. This is really odd, you know. And my grandfather, who I didn't know was my grandfather at the time, took me to this room. We're playing with a model train, and then he took me into the living room, and I noticed this woman, this Native American woman in full, you know, regalia. And I was like, who's the Indian? And he says, well, that's my wife. She died of cancer. She was Blackfoot, and she was the chief's daughter. And she was taken off of the reservation as a child and put into one of those reformatory schools for natives. And she was a classical piano prodigy, and she was the first Native American woman to play Carnegie Hall. So I actually am a musician myself, and I like to think that both my ability to walk between worlds and my ability to play music were derived from the native blood that runs through my veins. Seems reasonable to me to make that assumption. Yeah, you guys, so join the Patreon, because these group chats, you don't know yet, you don't understand. We have, like, Julian is one of the most brilliant people alive. We have some people whose families are elite. I'm not going to name any names, but we have at least one double PhD in there. Let's see, was it physics and psychology? I drank ayahuasca and injected ketamine at the same time with this dude, and it was, both of us are of the opinion that it was the best conversation that we've ever had. And I can't remember verbatim, but it was fucking crazy, man. I mean, just so extraordinary, and I'm pretty sure it was all true, you know, like deep metaphysics and technical as hell, you know. I thought I was going to die like 8 times, but we still managed to carry on this conversation. And by the way, that is totally safe. Ketamine is not contraindicated with anything. So, you know, it's not something I would normally do, but he called me up and he said this, and I'm like, double PhD inviting me over to inject ketamine after drinking ayahuasca. This kind of thing that you know, despite wanting to say no, you really can't say no. So it is a collection of brilliant and quite loony people that are going to be getting together for these Discord chats. So join us at the $10 and up tier. This is becoming a very strong community with people that are genuinely top shelf. And if you're not a part of it, then, as we say in the Patreon, you're a bitch. And if you don't want to be a bitch, join the Patreon. Because in the Patreon, in the inner, there's the outer order and the inner order. In the inner order, we are Illuminati, and the outer order is bitches. And that's all, you know. There's just two designations for people in this world: Illuminati and bitches. From New York parts, is it Lenape? Cool. Well, I'll look it up. I've never heard of that tribe. Must be a little small New England tribe. Maybe you're involved in the first Thanksgiving. Guns and Nature? What the hell? All right, for real, guys. I gotta go because I have to go meet my son. And, well, I guess, you know, they'll tell me when they get to town. And then I just gotta go outside. Oh, damn it. I sent the wrong video to all these people. Shit. Anyways, no, I have a few more minutes because I can wait for them. Everything is connected and serves a higher agenda. Yeah, so, you know, that, if I wasn't so all over the place tonight, I would have said this a long time ago, but, you know, this is all about bringing down the filters in the nervous system and exposing our being to the grander universe. And, you know, the belief in negative entities and parasitical entities and all this kind of demons and shit is there to scare you away from doing that. The only people that are affected by these things are people that believe in them. One of my least popular opinions, and that is extremely unfortunate to me because it means there's a lot of people out there that have lost the game. You know, as soon as you adopt false beliefs that are limiting to the extent that a lot of people have in regards to this stuff, you're fucking done. You're useless. You're not going any further. Your development, your journey has ended. As soon as you are open to falsehoods like that, you are fucking toast. So, last question is collective consciousness. Collective consciousness is a noun, it's not a question. So what do you mean by collective consciousness? I'll give you a multi-tiered answer because I know kind of what you're getting at, I think. There are different ways of looking at that. There's the collective consciousness in the sense that we all have psychological archetypes, and we have an internal world that is not dissimilar from others, and it can be mapped, and that map can be applied to other people. To varying degrees. You know, you're native, you know what I mean when I say native minds do not work like Caucasian minds. Native humor is not like Caucasian humor. You know, it's a very, very different mind state, a very different mind state. But these archetypes still exist, and the subconscious and the conscious still exist, and the hemispheres of the brain still play the same role. And you know what I mean? So despite like overwhelmingly obvious dissimilarities, like riding around with Janae people in the car, and they don't say, we gotta get gas, they say the metal horse needs to drink, because they don't have words for this stuff still, you know? Well, thank you, Jen. So yeah, there's that, and then there's the literal collective unconsciousness, or not, that's not the word. There's the universal mind. That'd be a better way to put it. And we actually have evidence that it exists, you know, beyond the 0-point field, which is, you know, questionable. Information is not lost at the subatomic level, which means the Akashic record exists. And, you know, I have experienced telepathy that is absolutely undeniable from thousands of miles away from people, you know. I thought when I first met my partner, and we hadn't even kissed, still haven't, actually, really, which is kind of strange after 6 years. But nothing had happened, you know, nothing had happened. We weren't romantically involved. Should have been talking about marriage, and I thought, I wonder what she thinks about marriage. And my phone beeps, and she's like, I think I just changed my mind about marriage. There's no fucking way, like, how is that a coincidence, you know? But even more convincing, the day that my mom hung herself, I was at a restaurant, and I told my friend, I have to call my mom. I think she's going to hang herself. Not just kill herself, but specifically what she did. And then we went back to the hotel, and I got a message from the worker at the farm, and she had indeed hung herself at exactly the moment that I said I should call her. And then, let's see here, and then there's also the DMT entities and ayahuasca entities that know things that they could not know. Once I was told by a DMT entity after smoking DMT, the vision was closing like a Bugs Bunny at the end of the cartoon, you know, and the pig sticks his head out, and it's the pig that goes, bitty, bitty, that's all, folks. I think it was the pig. I don't know, whoever that was. You know, it was kind of like that. It stuck its head back out of the vision, and it was like, this woman, I could say my aunt, I guess, my aunt just sent, your aunt, the DMT being says, your aunt just sent you $1,000. I had not sent a distress signal, I had not asked her for money, I had nothing, none of this shit. And it's not like she just did that either, but this time, she just sent this money for no reason. And as soon as the vision disappeared, my phone beeped, and it was that aunt saying, I just wanted you to know I sent you $1,000. And that type of thing has happened over and over and over again. So, you know, I'm not really particularly fond of the idea of spirits having an objective existence of their own. I think the way that Robert Anton Wilson framed it, that these things are real, but they're not real in the way that the IRS is real, is the best way to look at it. But the point is, through non-conventional means of access. Also, our genetics apparently store memories, which is another aspect of this, I think. You know, when you have ancestral memories in your DNA, you know, but that also, it's like the more you know, the less you know, in a way, because, you know, you have some memory that you're able to confirm, but it's an English person, and I have English ancestors, and so I have no way of knowing if I just am a descendant of that person, and that's why I could remember everything from all of his books before I read them, or what, you know? Or is it the Akashic record? Or is it reincarnation? And you'll just never know, you know? Earlier I was talking about critical thinking and how you have to kind of develop this capacity for being objective, because all of us want to believe certain things, you know? But usually, no matter what kind of evidence you encounter when it comes to metaphysical or spiritual concepts, if you really flesh them out, you'll discover that you cannot come to an absolute conclusion. It's just not possible. You don't know if reincarnation is real, or if it's the collective memory that gives you access to these, memories from other lifetimes, or what. So that's really, in my opinion, the first real step to achieving freedom as an individual and true illumination, is to accept that you're never going to know a motherfucking thing. And that's how you ensure that you can continue to receive more. You cannot fill a full cup. And so, people, it looks like I got to go, guys. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. And hold on, let me see what's up here. Maybe I don't have to go. I guess my alert isn't on. Know thyself. So once again, guys, join the Patreon, goddammit, or you can support through the PayPal and Zelle and all the stuff in the chat. I am demonetized, so YouTube doesn't give me shit, and it also deprioritizes my content in people's feeds, and so it is increasingly difficult for me to justify spending hours and hours and hours online sharing information. And you don't have to do it out of charity. You can sign up for stuff, and you can get plenty of value for your money. So if you're interested in the occult, or okay, all right. So Paul Karaki, are you coming to Paul Karaki? I'll come outside and meet you. It only takes me 2 minutes to get down there. So yes, I gotta go. The family is in town, and I haven't seen them in months. So support the family, support me, or I'll kick you right square in the nuts. And believe me, I can do it astrally. I gotta get out of here. Biden's triangulating my position. I can tell the left is furious. Good night, folks. I'll be back tomorrow, probably with some music. I'll do a music stream tomorrow. Because, oops, I left so she's getting all that in a voice message. I just had two governments rake me over the coals, and my son is here for the first time, and I want to go take him to do stuff, and, be really great if we could blow this channel up, and I feel like my message is worthy. So, if you're also brokey, then you can share the streams and videos with people that you think will enjoy them. You can join the Discord and become part of the community for free. There are potently intelligent people that can, once we get our networking shit together, I think this is going to be a really powerful community. So, just click stuff and type stuff and revolutionize your being by joining one or more of my communities. Definitely hit the like button, share, subscribe, fucking bell notifications. They told me, YouTube was telling me that a lot of my people don't have the notifications on. It's a little bit below the average, and that's not good. I want to be above average in every metric. So help me out with that. Click the fucking bell. Do it now. I gotta go.